Okay, bless the Lord. We congregate another time in the presence of the Lord as we commence our time of study in the book of Genesis. We continue with our verse-by-verse discussion, our study of the book of Genesis. We are in chapter 43, and we bow our heads in prayer. Gracious Father, we thank you for the spirit of our lives. Thank you for bringing us into the house of the Lord on the Lord's day. We congregate. We celebrate your goodness towards us. And even as we open up the holy word of God today, Lord, we pray for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Pray that our eyes, our ears will be open to the word of God. Reveal yourself, Lord. Make yourself known to us. Pray that the blessings of God will fill the hearts of your people as we open up the word of God today. Bless us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we study. Those who are on their way, bring them safely. We ask these favors in the blessed anointed name of your Son, Yeshua. All right, so we are continuing from where we left off last week. Last week in our discussion, we were talking about some of the crimes of injustice that was done to black people throughout black history by Europeans. And we touched on the 300 years of slavery. 300 years of slavery that our ancestors worked for Europeans, and during that time they enriched. All European countries were enriched by our ancestors, and we make mention that they served 300 years hard labor, and they were treated, during that time they were treated in an inhumane way. They were treated as if, well, they were not human beings. And last week what we said is that the slavery, the injustice that was done to our ancestors by Europeans by enslaving them for over 300 years, we said last week that there was only one race of people who could have survived. Who could have survived that 300 years of slavery. And no other race of people could have survived being in slavery for that period of time and came out and still being in existence. And even though if you try to switch it around, if you put white people or European people in slavery, treat them the same way that they were treating African people, treat them that same way, I don't think that they would have survived. And I believe that the reason why our ancestors survived slavery is because the Most High God was with us. Amen. It is because the Most High God was with our ancestors, and that is the reason why they survived slavery. And another thing again that made them survive slavery is because they are the original. They are original. They are the original people who were created by the Most High God. They were from the beginning, and they have that originality in them. They were not a copy. You know, you can easily get rid of a copy. It's harder to get rid of the original. The original is tough, and it's durable, it's strong. And it's hard to get rid of the original when you can easily get rid of the copy. So, because we see that, when you even look at Europe and European people, you'll see that they have what they call the Black Death, or the blue-blooded plague. That in that time it destroyed more than half of European population were killed by the blue-blooded plague. And, people are dying like crazy. And we see, you can make a comparable reference here where we have in Africa, most people think that the AIDS virus was created. It was man-made. Remember, we have the AIDS epidemic, and also we have what you call Ebola. And we have the AIDS epidemic, and we see that a lot of people in Africa die from the AIDS epidemic, and a lot of people die from the Ebola virus. But still, with all of that, all of these things that, all of all these things that our ancestors faced, still, the race of people, we still go on.
Yeah.
We still go on. And as I said before, it is because the Most High God is on our side. Most High God was with our ancestors. That is the reason why they survived that 300 years of slavery. And another thing is because they are the original. They're not copied. And we see, even we talked last week, about the after the end of slavery, when slavery came to an end, the British, they went up in India and they make a deal with the Indian people up there to bring them and put them different places and have them as indentured workers. And when they came down to places like Guyana and Trinidad and all of these places, these Indian people, they couldn't handle. They couldn't handle the different climate, the disease, different viruses that they were dealing with. They couldn't handle. And a lot of them died out. And it's the same thing too with the Indians, the American Indians, all of these people. When the European came over, the Indians couldn't handle the different disease that came over with the Europeans. And even when they tried to enslave them, they couldn't really do the kind of work, the hard work, they couldn't handle it. So what we're saying is that black people survived slavery because of the fact that the Most High God was on their side, and because of the fact that they were the original. And it's hard to get rid of the original. A copy, you could always get rid of a copy very easily, but an original is hard to get rid of. So why we make that statement, it goes back from Genesis chapter 43 and at verse 10 of Genesis chapter 43. And here we see that Judah, the son of Jacob, he's trying to persuade his father Jacob to send Benjamin down to Egypt. Remember the last time that they were in Egypt, Joseph, he told them that they have to go back to Canaan, and they have to bring their youngest brother Benjamin, because Benjamin was Joseph's favorite brother, and Joseph was afraid that his brothers, knowing their wickedness, he was afraid that they probably killed Benjamin or they did something bad to him, because Benjamin was not with them in Egypt. So he pressured them and made them make a covenant with him that they are going to leave Simeon in jail, because he imprisoned Simeon and sent the 10 brothers back to Canaan to bring back Joseph and bring back Benjamin. And when they return with Benjamin, then they're going to release Simeon from jail. And we study where they went back and they talked to their father Jacob and told him what the man, remember we talked about the man? What the man down in Egypt was saying, that you have to bring your younger brother, and then Simeon will be released. And we saw that Jacob, he wasn't having none of that, because Benjamin was his youngest son, and Benjamin was his favorite son. And he wasn't about to release Benjamin to go down into Egypt. We saw where Judah, he took over leadership, and he spoke to his father, and he let his father know that they don't have any food. The food that they brought from Egypt already used up. And he showed his father that it's not only Jacob alone, life is at stake. You have to think about his children, you have to think about his grandchildren, and you have to think about everybody who was involved. So therefore, he have to make this hard decision whereby he will have to release Benjamin, so Benjamin could go with them down into Egypt. So what in verse 10, it tells us, for except we had lingered, that's where we left off last week, Genesis chapter 43 and verse 10. And for except we have lingered, surely by now we would have returned this second time. So Judah is saying, except they linger. You remember Jacob lingered. He was hesitant to make the decision. He figured if you leave it until, the next day, or leave it off for a while, it will take care of itself. And he was procrastinating. So his son Judah is telling him, except we have lingered, we would have made the trip to Egypt and returned. And last week we emphasized that the trip to Egypt is 500 miles one way. 500 miles going down from Canaan to Egypt, and 500 miles coming back from Egypt to Canaan. And there's where we left off last week. And what we were saying is that the journey from Canaan to Egypt, it's a long way, and the weather in that country is very hot. And we said that if the chosen people of God was European, they could not have made that journey. And because we see the effect of our sun on the bodies of Europeans, and we talk about, how they are dying in Israel, because Israel have the second highest rate of melanoma cancer in the whole world, and Australia have the highest rate of melanoma cancer in the whole world. And we all know when a European person is in hot sun, how the hot sun will peel their bodies, and it will create blisters and all of these things upon their bodies. And you want to tell me that they are going to travel, European people will travel for 500 miles from Canaan down to Egypt, and you telling me that they're going to survive that kind of a weather, that kind of a heat? And I'm saying no. I'm saying that the people who made that journey, it was not the Ashkenazi European people who we have living in the land of Israel today. It was the original people. It was the black people who were the original Hebrews. Because we know that the Ashkenazi European Jewish people, they were converted. They are converts of Judaism. And they were converted to Judaism in the 7th century. And that is the time that they were converted. And I think that the world today might have been in a better place if these people did come up, at the beginning, at the front. They would come out and say, well, we are not the original. We are converts. And we take the responsibility to play the role that we are playing today. But we are not original. But they give people, or they give the world the impression that they are the original people. When in reality what they did, it's stolen identity. It's identity theft. And you talk about identity theft, you have to look at what these people are doing by stealing the identity of a race of people and pretending to be that they are the original. So what we are saying here in verse 10 of chapter 43, Judah is saying to his father, for except we had lingered, surely by now we would have returned this second time. And what he's saying, we will journey down to Egypt from Canaan, 500 miles, and we will journey back, get our business completed, and we will journey back another 500 miles, and they are traveling on the backs of donkey. Could you imagine that? How far can a donkey go? In that weather, that condition. not too far. A donkey probably, let's say, even though they probably maybe travel, about 10 miles, if they can travel so far, daytime during the hot period, if they can travel 10, 15 miles, it's still going to take them a long time because it is 500 miles one way. Amen. So he's saying that we could have made the journey going down to Egypt and returning from Egypt, and if we didn't linger. And it tells us in verse 11, and their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this. So here we see that, Jacob, he's a trickster. And he don't want to send his son Benjamin. And what Jacob is doing here, he's reaching back into his bag of tricks. He's going to come up with an idea because he don't really want to send Benjamin down to Egypt. So what he's doing, he's going into his bag of tricks. And he's saying, if we have to, if it must be, so now do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and more, nuts and almond. So what Jacob is saying, let us try something else. Let us try something else. You know, this man, he's a human being. And we can try other ways of dealing with this situation. And what he's saying here, let us send him a present. And I heard somebody talk about, you know, bride. And the question that we have to ask, was this a bride? I know in that society, it was a common thing for people to give gifts, you know, to a ruler, you know, to somebody who is in authority. I know it was a common thing in that time. You know, people will give gifts as they meet a person for the first time. They will make sure that they, you know, show them respect and present them with a gift. But knowing the kind of person that Jacob was and the situation, the jam that he was in a jam. He was in a tight spot. And the first thing came out of his mouth is to get him a gift. And we have to ask the question whether or not if that was a bride. And knowing who Jacob was, the man that he was, he liked to wheel and deal, and he was a businessman. We cannot really, put it past Jacob, knowing that the kind of person he was. We can't rule out that Jacob probably was thinking about sending this man a bride. And, you know, we can even take the question a little bit further. You know, we as Christians, you know, sometimes we are in a situation and we are dealing with people, and if we don't, as we say, butter their hand, whatever we are doing, it's not going to get done. And sometimes we are like between a rock and a hard place. And if you don't decide to butter their hands, for instance, a lot of the Caribbean islands, you sending back a vehicle, or you sending back maybe barrels, or you doing some kind of a business transaction with some of these people in some of these little islands, and you have something that needs to be cleared by the custom authority, and you as a Christian, you go there and you tell yourself, well, you know, I'm not going to give them any money, I'm not going to give them any butter hand, as we call it, and whatever you have there for them to clear, you know, every time you go and try to clear the thing, they're going to come up with some kind of excuse why you can't get it. They'll tell you, well, the person who's supposed to deal with this is not here today. You know, he didn't come into work today. And until you get on to what they're doing, what they're asking for, you need to reach your hands in your pocket and come up with something. And if you don't reach your hands in your pocket and come up with something to give to some of these people, you will keep going, go this day and they will tell you something else. You go next tomorrow, they tell you something else, and you keep going until you really get you're caught up to what they're on to. So what we're saying is that sometimes, you know, because of how society operates, you know, it's not something that we as Christians really want to practice, but because of what, you know, society really turned into, sometimes, you know, to get the business transaction that you want to get, you have to just, you know, give them what they ask for and, you know, move on. So here we see that Jacob is saying, Israel is saying, if it must be so now, do this, take of the best fruits in the land of Egypt. Now, we are talking about famine in Egypt, but it seems as though they have fruits. And Jacob have enough here that he can provide a present to send to the man down in Egypt. He said, provide the best fruits in the land, in your vessel, and carry down the man a present. Amen. A little balm, a little honey, and spices, and more nuts and almond. So take him a present. You know, try to win him over. Amen. Make yourself look good. In verse 12. And take double money in your hands. Why is he saying take double money? You know, the first time they went down and they had the amount of money to pay for the food that they were supposed to buy. But here we see that Jacob is saying, take double money. So what he's saying here, let us use money. Maybe money might be able to get us what we are looking for. And you know, that was the kind of person that Jacob was. If Jacob can get something happen in one way, he's going to use another way. And here we see what he's saying here is that we're going to try taking a gift for the man. And if the gift don't work, then we have more money. We have an extra portion of money that we can give him. And I guess he's saying that money answering all things. Yeah. Money answering all things. Money is going to do it. And he said in verse 12, and take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sack, carry it again in your hand. Perhaps it was an oversight. So what he's saying is that, you remember the money that they carried the last time that they went down to buy the food, Joseph, terrorizing them, and he put the money back in the mouth of their sack, and they discovered the money. So Jacob is telling them, take back that money with double portion, and then you're going to take it back because it was probably an oversight, they make a mistake. And in verse 13, take also your brother and arise, go again to the man. So you see how many things Jacob is putting in line? First of all, he's putting together a present by putting all of these different fruits in place, and then he's sending a double portion of money, and then he have Benjamin. So if the fruits, the presents don't work, then you have money to put in front of the man. And then if the money don't work, then you have also Benjamin. So he have a backup plan. Yeah. Amen. And anybody notice anything here? You notice Jacob is doing everything else, but he's not calling on God. He's not calling on God. God is the last thing that's on the mind of Jacob. And then it tells us in verse 14, and God Almighty gave you mercy before the man. So here we see he finally brought the Most High God in the picture. And he leave the Most High God until he come to the end. And that is what they call foxhole religion. You don't call on God until you're in the foxhole. When bullets is flying left, right, and center, and you tell yourself water is more than flour. Then you throw your hands up and you're calling out on God, God save me. And here we see that Jacob he leaves the Most High God out until it comes to the end. And what he said, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man. So the question that we have to ask here, was this a prayer? Read it for yourself. How you see this? Is this a prayer? Is Jacob praying? Is he petitioning God when he said, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man? Do you see that as a prayer? Is that a prayer? Is he praying to God? Is that a prayer? Pardon?
Yeah, think about that. Yeah, it is a prayer.
It is a prayer? Yeah. Well, when you look at it, some interpreters of the Bible, what they say is that it is not a prayer. It is a wish. He is wishing. It's not, because if you pray, you will say, well, God, be with my sons. You will pray in a positive kind of a way. But it's not, he's not really praying. In other words, he's saying, and God Almighty give you mercy before the man. In other words, he's wishing. He's wishing that God give them mercy. But it's not that he was really praying and he trusted the Lord. So what is happening here? What this statement that he made here, even though he mentioned God Almighty, it is not a statement of faith. This is not a statement of faith. It's not a statement of faith that he is making here. He's more or less that he's hoping, that God is going to give them mercy, but there is no faith in what he's saying here. That he may send away your other brother. So he's wishing that God, will show them mercy and send away, which was Simeon that he's talking about here. Simeon was in jail. And Benjamin, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So when you look at all these statements that Jacob is making here, there's no faith in those statements. Because when he said, if I'm bereaved of my children, I'm bereaved. And what he's saying here is that what happened, happened. I can't change it. Whatever happened, happened. And if I'm bereaved, if Benjamin is taken, Benjamin is killed. If Joseph is killed, it already happened. If Simeon, he's in jail, if he's killed, I can't change it. And there is no faith in what he's saying. And you can even take this a little bit further. And you go over in the book of Esther. And you will see the statement that Esther made. Everybody know the famous statement? There's a famous line in the book of Esther. Anybody know what that famous line is?
If I perish.
If I perish, I perish. How would you look at that? Is that a prayer?
But Pastor, look at the statement you make here.
Yes, go ahead. Where's your mind? Where's your mind? Where is it? It's up here. Yes, sir.
If you look at the statement, because when you go back and you study the original text, because what it's saying that the English language is very slow.
Right.
Right. So when they say, and God, this is supposed to be and God, and mighty give you what?
Right.
Right. So he's still calling him, and God.
Yeah, I know he's calling.
So it basically is a prayer.
Well,
It's a prayer. Because he's calling on the source.
well, it might sound.
That's what the interpreter put it. But if you look at the Hammond says, he's calling on the source.
Well, it might sound.
In the English language, that's what I tell you. Yes.
It might sound as if it's a prayer, but it sounds more like a wish. It sounds like if he's wishing, I'm hoping that God be with you. You know what?
He's a prayer. He goes back to the source.
Well,
he goes back to the source.
I don't think it was a prayer. Because if it was a prayer, look at the negative statement that he made at the end of that verse. You see, you read the end of that verse. Look at that verse, brother. Look at what he said at that verse. He said, and Benjamin, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So how you look at that?
Like after me, like asking God. You don't pray, but he's saying that so God can help you.
Well, he says he go back to the source. He said, and God Almighty go back to the source. That is the source.
Okay.
The other part they don't tell you that, but the source towards it, and God Almighty.
Okay.
So you go back to the source.
Okay, so how you look at the end of the verse 14, and he said, if I'm bereaved of my children, I'm bereaved. Would you say that is a statement of faith? Is that a statement of faith?
So he changed it then now, right?
He changed it
Yeah,
there.
he changed the prayer. And he come back to his personal opinion.
So that is not a prayer.
Yeah, he come back to the first part of his personal opinion.
All right.
And why they say, and your God, my God?
Yeah.
You know? Why then bring it that thing? My God, your God, related to the past of victory with you are help you.
Well, as I said, I said in one lesson before that Jacob never professed to anybody that he was a man of faith. He never professed to anybody that he was a giant of faith. Jacob is a businessman. Jacob is a wheeler and dealer kind of man. He liked to make a deal. He even tried to make a deal with the Lord. So he's a man of the flesh. He's a man that likes to do things his own way. You know, if he sees something working out, then he has confidence that it's working out. He likes to make sure that he set things up that he can see it working out, you know, with his two eyes. He's not a person of faith who will say, well, I trust the Lord to work things out. Jacob only trusts God when there's nothing else. You know, as we usually say, well, there's nothing else to do, you know, so how are we going to do now is trust God. That means that you already do everything that you can do. Everything that you know you can do, you already do it. And now you don't know what else to do. So you say, we might as well trust God. Is that the time to trust God? Yes, sir.
Well, it's if you go further back in Genesis, it's the same way that he dealt with his brother Esau.
Right.
He knew that he was coming.
Right.
And he had to, try to appease his
Right.
anger.
He sent different gifts.
He sent the present over.
Yeah.
And he sent it in droves.
Right.
And then, when things, I guess, when he feels that he did all that he could, and
Right.
he's like, okay, that means I don't have anything else now. I'll just have to trust God.
Well, I think when he crossed the river, that's when he really decided to call on God after he already make all of those provisions.
Yeah.
So what we said, Jacob really have a habit of doing things in that kind of way. I'm not going to say that he was a godless person.
Right.
And when we look at Jacob, we probably can, maybe put ourselves in that picture, in that light too. And sometimes we act like that too.
Amen.
So I'm not really saying that because I want to really condemn Jacob. Because, when you're really facing trouble in your life, you have to be really grounded in the Most High God to immediately, as soon as the trouble starts, your mind just focus on, let me call on God. And a lot of times when we face difficulty and we face trouble in our life, the first thing that comes to our mind most of the time is not prayer. And if you're honest, you will able to say that. And sometimes it's when we trying to work the thing out, and we try this way and we try the other way, and then boy, let me just pray and ask God to intervene. I know I should have done that before, but it's never too late. That's the words we just use. It's never too late, and God is merciful. And yes, He's merciful. But most of the time, we never really call on God for a thing. God sometimes will be done maybe after you try maybe 5 times. Or, God is done at the end. And as we say, they call it foxhole religion. When you're in a jam and you don't know where else to turn, you don't have nobody else you can turn to, then you decide to call on God. And it seems as though this is exactly what Jacob is doing here. He's saying, so what? Well, what must be, must be. If it happened, it happened. If I lose all of my children, if I lose Jacob, and then Benjamin, and then Simeon, what can I do? What must be, must be. I can't change it. So what we are saying is that there is no faith in what Jacob was saying there. And I guess he was under stress. He was facing all of these difficulties. So therefore, he speak in that kind of way. And in verse 15, and the men took that present, talking about his sons, and they took double money in their hands. So they take not just the ordinary portion to pay for the food, but they take an extra portion as a backup. In case they have to throw in something extra. They have to sweeten the pot. They have a backup plan. And Benjamin, so they have the present, they have the portion of money to pay for the food, and also they have extra money to sweeten the pot if it's necessary. And then they have Benjamin. Everything is lined up. He have them in place, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. Now, so they got all of these things in place with Benjamin, and they head out and they went down to Egypt and they stood before Joseph. But there's a lot in this text here that I'm seeing here. They traveled for 500 miles, okay? The text don't really tell us that, but we know that the distance from Canaan to Egypt is 500 miles, approximately 500 miles one way. And these guys are traveling in the heat of the sun, and they are traveling on the backs of donkey. They're riding their donkey going down to Egypt. You ever see somebody ride a donkey? You ride a donkey. You're not really going that fast, You're riding the donkey, and sometimes when the weather is so hot, the donkey don't even want to go. And the condition is hot back in those places. So here we see that these guys, and they, according to European interpretation of the Bible, they're supposed to be European. They're supposed to be white people. And they're traveling for 500 miles. And here the text is saying that they reached down to Egypt. And I could imagine those Europeans reached down into Egypt, their skin roasting, their skin peeling off. They have blisters all over the skin. You ever see a white person exposed to the sun during the summer, the way how the sun will turn them, the sun peeling up their skin, and it will create blisters on their body. So could you imagine that these 11 European guys from the family of Jacob traveling for 500 miles down to Egypt, and here they reach down into Egypt, and it seems as though that they're in good condition, they're healthy. They don't have to go and get medical treatment. You know, they don't have to go and, you know, and get treatment for all that blisters that will be on their skin and all of the sunburn damage that they have to deal with. Because when you receive sunburn, after a while, it can give you fever. It can fester, you know, and it can, you know, break out in sores. And this condition, this weather that these guys are dealing with here is not ordinary, you know, condition where you will have sunlight and then the breeze will be blowing. Some of these places, you know, in Egypt is hot weather, feeling hot, you know, and that is what these guys are experiencing. And here we see that the text is saying that they travel for that distance. As I said, you know, you're not going to see in the text that it's 500 miles, but you can look it up and you can see it's approximately 500 miles journey that they're journeying one way, and they're going on the backs of donkey. And here the text is saying that they went down to, they reached successfully in Egypt, and nobody was sunburned. Nobody had blisters. Nobody's skin was stripping off. And then immediately they didn't go to the hospital, they didn't go and look for medical treatment. What they did, they went right before Joseph. They went right before Joseph. So what is happening here? They couldn't make a shortcut. Oh, you have your hand up?
And how many days they reached 500 by how many days?
Well, that's what we're trying to that's what we're trying to work out. You have to take into consideration that the sun is really hot. The weather condition is hot. And I don't know how much miles they could travel during the day. And if they travel 10, 15 miles a day, and then, you know, they have to rest, I don't know if they probably will travel some distance in the night. So you have to maybe put it at a maximum amount of travel distance. Maybe they travel, say, 20 miles. If they could travel so far in a day in that condition, and it's 500 miles. So, you know, it might take them maybe 3 weeks. You know, maybe a little bit more than that. Depends on how fast they could travel. Because they're on the backs of a donkey. They're riding on a donkey. And it's hot weather. And we know what heat is all about. You know, sometimes you in Grenada or you're in St. Vincent and see one of those old guys riding a donkey. And he crosses his leg and he just barely moving, you know, in the heat of the sun. And then when you reach at a cool shade under a tree, you have to stop for a while and you have to rest, you know, the donkey. Because the donkey not going to go, the donkey start bawling, you know, because the heat is too much, you know. So that's what we're saying. Yes, sir, go ahead.
What I know about desert area?
Mm-hmm.
That makes this thing so good. In the day, you're going to find it hot, but in the night it's very cold.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, so they understand the climate condition very well.
Right.
And they know how to apply it.
So that's what I'm saying. Maybe they travel maybe 10 miles during the day, and then they have to relax themselves. But, you know, during the night, you know, they probably travel some distance also. So that's why I probably put it, say, maybe 20 miles per day, you know, they probably could travel. But we don't know, we only speculated. But what I'm saying, the condition going down there, it's hot. It's weather that is not really good for people with light complexion. People who don't have a lot of melanin in their bodies, because melanin provide a lot of protection from the sun. And we know that European people don't have a lot. They have a little bit of melanin in their body, and therefore they can't be exposed to too much sun. And if you try to tell us that the family of Jacob, biblical Israel, was white people, European people. And here the Bible is telling us that these guys going like nothing. They're going from Canaan to Egypt. They went down there before, you know, and they went back up. And now they're going down. And they got to go back up again. And these guys doing it just like if it's a breeze. You know, it's like, you know, you're down in the Caribbean and you see, sometimes when I go down in Grenada, I'll see those people who live in down there and they're accustomed with the heat because I moved away from the Caribbean for a long time. And these people just up and down and it's like nothing, you know, in the heat. And I go down there and you could know the people who visited it. You're seeing the water just coming down. Man, I got sweat all over my head, my whole shirt. I'm wet from the top of my head right down to my feet, wet with perspiration. You know, and those people, they're just calmly moving about. You know, so what we're saying is that these men, they were not Europeans. And the reason why they could have made that journey and they were able to appear before Joseph in good health and good condition, because they are accustomed with that. There were people from that area, and people from that area was not white people back in that time. 6,000, 5,000 years ago, it was not Europeans who were living there. It was African people. So therefore, they are accustomed with that kind of weather, and their body could handle that kind of a travel. And that's the reason why they were able to go for 500 miles, and then immediately, you know, they reached in a sound frame of mind. Their brains wasn't fried, their skin wasn't stripped off, they didn't have blisters all over their bodies. When they go before Joseph, they appear before Joseph, they was in good health. Amen. Bless the Lord. What verse is that we go to? And 13, okay, 12.
No, you're going to 16.
16?
16, yeah.
Okay. All right, so they stood before Joseph. Yeah, what I was saying here. Joseph, when you read the text, you might take it to mean that Joseph was the only person who was selling the food. We ought not to understand it that way. Joseph, it had many places. And when we start out dealing with the famine, you will see that they set up warehouses in different places in Egypt. And, you know, Joseph, he, as we said before, he positioned himself in the place where he knew that his brothers was going to show up. You know, he's a part of the family. He know when food shortage in Canaan, they're going to come down to Egypt. So what he did, I guess, he positioned himself at the place where he know his brothers is going to show up. But Joseph was not the only person who was, you know, selling food. And he probably wasn't even selling. He is the manager. He is the prime minister of Egypt. And what is happening here? Because he have Simeon is in jail. So when these guys go back, even though they have the intention to go somewhere else, go out the next warehouse to buy food, even though they do that, they can't do it because Simeon is in jail. And Joseph already put the law in that they have to come back and they have to see him. And Joseph have to see Benjamin before Simeon could be released. So therefore, even though they have it in mind, because these guys are tricksters. These guys are tricksters just like their father. And they could easily go somewhere else and buy food. You know, because it's not Joseph alone that is in charge of the food. You know, you have other places where they could have gone, but they could not. Because Simeon was in jail, and for Simeon to be released, they have to go back and they have to face up with the man. They have to go and face up with the man. And it tells us in verse 16, and when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the rulers of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. Now, we all know the story, right? That Joseph, he wanted to see his brother Benjamin. And now he saw Benjamin. One would have think that, you know, Joseph would just call out the whole thing. Man, I'm so happy. And he would make himself known to them, reveal himself to his brothers. But Joseph not doing that. Joseph, in my opinion, when I look at the chapters that we are dealing with, Joseph liked a lot of drama. I'm hesitant to call him a drama queen.
Okay.
they could have made a good drama movie. There's a lot of drama that Joseph created in all of these chapters. Joseph liked a lot of drama. And this morning when I'm looking at the text, I'm asking myself the question, if Joseph had some kind of split personality. Because one time you see Joseph, he in a good mood and he treating them good, and then all of a sudden Joseph will be crying, he'll be shedding tears, and then after he finished shedding tears, he go in the back to clean up himself, and he's so sorrowful and so compassionate, and then he'll come back and start do them evil again. He start taking revenge on them. So it crossed my mind. I asked myself the question, if Joseph probably had some kind of a split personality complex that he probably was experiencing back in that time. And can you, as an individual, can you go from being nice with a person and then you suddenly become so, without any kind of an explanation, no reason at all, you suddenly, you start accusing a person of doing this, and then you change your mind, and then you decide you're going to put them in jail, and then you decide you're going to release them, you're going to send them back, and he keep going up and down in his attitude towards his brothers. And what I'm saying is that what Joseph was doing, it was not right. The Most High God never told Joseph to operate the way he was operating. Joseph was doing what he was doing here, he was doing it on his own. And any one of you could voice your opinion. Do you think it was the will of God? Was it the will of God? Did God inspire Joseph to carry out these actions that he was taking here? All of these different, round and around, going around like he's playing round dodge, with his brothers. And he's trying to get them to, he's trying to prove whether or not if they change. You think that was the will of God? You think the Most High God, that was his will?
Well, I would say an opinion here.
Yes.
Based on the prophecy was given by Abraham, the Bible says that the children of Israel belonged to Egypt for 400 years?
400, well, he said 400, I think it's 430 years, yeah.
So now, Joseph was doing that, to be very careful, because he was testing them.
Yeah.
My study Bible said he was testing them. So he didn't want to blow the cover. So when he almost blow it. Most of the time when he was feeling emotion, he go back in the back and begin to cry.
Right.
He almost abandoned the test.
But yes,
he almost abandoned it. So when he realized, no, let me come back and continue. Because what he was trying to know was to get the father to come down in Egypt. The hope of him to come down.
Yes, we know that.
So it's a form of inspiration from God. God was using him, in a sense, in order for him to complete the whole thing.
I don't know, because one time he's crying, one time he's feeling remorseful.
Yeah, so almost and
then as soon as he finished crying, he cleaned himself up, and then he go back and he start to terrorize his brothers again. And that's why I'm asking the question whether that if he was suffering from some kind of split personality complex.
No.
I can't see myself. As a Christian, as a so-called Jesus or Yeshua person, I can't see myself, treating a person good and being nice to them, and all of a sudden, without they do anything, I just go and just intensify, pressure on them, to terrorize them. I really can't see myself doing that, and that's the reason why I'm asking the question whether that if it's the Most High God who was giving Joseph the inspiration to do these things. And listen, we have to understand that we as Christians, a lot of things that we do is not from the inspiration of God.
Right.
A lot of things that people in the Bible did too. A lot of things in the Bible, it wasn't things that was inspired by God. And people do some things in the Bible, but it's recorded in the Bible, but it's not inspired by God. So we can't look at the Bible and say, well, everything that we see, all of the actions that we see taken, all of these actions, is God that give these people inspiration to do these things. No. Look, for instance, we have one instance that we can make reference to when David, he came up with the idea to number the nation of Israel. That is recorded in the Bible. You think, and the Lord didn't have anything to do with that. God was angry with David because David decided to go out and number God's people. And David is regarded as a man after God's own heart. And a lot of things that some of these people in the Bible did, it wasn't God ordained. But you see, God allowed these things, as the Bible said, whatsoever things that were written aforetime were written for a learning, that we through faith and comfort of the scripture, that we may have hope. And it just said we today, everything we do today is not ordained of God. Even I as a pastor, you think every time I walk down the road, you think every time I decide to get off my bed, you think it's the Lord telling me to get up? You think when you get up off of your bed, is the Lord telling you to get up?
But Pastor, look at the point to make, right? Now, when David had made that mistake, God intervened.
Yes.
Right. You realize God didn't intervene when Joseph did that.
Okay, yes, he did.
Right. He didn't intervene.
Well, God didn't intervene. God didn't intervene and stop David.
But God said the plague, the prophet warned him and he said the plague. Okay.
Yes.
But this man, that's what happened there now. God didn't intervene.
Well, God, as I said, he didn't intervention in the sense that he didn't come and stop David, and he didn't stop Joseph. But what you're saying, I guess what you're saying, what you're trying to bring out is that he didn't discipline Joseph for the actions that he's taking. So I understand that. Okay, I understand. I fully understand what you're saying. Okay, so as we move on. Okay, so where is that? So he saw Benjamin in verse 16, and he would have, imagined that he's going to bring the whole thing to an end, because this is what he wanted. He wanted the evidence. He had the evidence. He promised when the evidence come, everything is going to be okay according to what we're seeing. But Joseph, no, he's going to stretch it on a little bit more, because Joseph liked drama. And I'm hesitating to call him a drama queen, but he liked to create drama, and he keep on creating drama after drama. He keep on terrorizing his brothers, and he terrorizing them. And I'm saying that all of these things that he's doing here is not the Most High God who was telling him to do these things. He was on his own. He said to the rulers of the house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. Now, what I'm seeing here is that Joseph is using his servants. All of the acts that Joseph is doing against his brothers, he's using his servants to do these acts. Remember, he used them to throw them in jail. Okay? He used them to take them out of jail. Then he used his servant again to plant the money back in their bags. And now the servants, they have to be wondering, I wonder what's going on with Joseph. One time he acted as if, because he already accused them of being spies, the servants knew that Joseph accused them of being spies, and now Joseph, he's telling these same servants to go home, take these men to my house. After you already have them in jail, and now you're saying, take them to my house, and he said, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. So, put yourself in the place of one of these servants that Joseph is using. What would you think? You don't really have information. You don't know what Joseph knowing. You don't know what Joseph is thinking. How would you really see Joseph? After you already see that he accused them of being spies, he threw them in jail, and he released them from jail. He sent 10 of them back home, and then he keep one in jail. And now he's telling you to prepare, take them home, and prepare, a dinner, prepare food for them. What would you think? How would you think about Joseph?
Confusing.
You say confusing?
They still have to obey.
Yes, I know. They have to obey. But how would you think of him? It's just like when you're at work, you see your boss acting in a kind of a mood swing, up and down, with somebody, and he's telling you to go and do this, and then you have to go and do it, and then he will try to put pressure on one person, and then then all of a sudden he changes his mind from what he's doing, and he tries to treat this person in a humane kind of way, and then all of a sudden again he tries to give instruction, to do them, some kind of evil, terrorizing them. After a while, you as a servant who carried out the instruction, you are going to wonder what is really going on with this man. And that is what I'm thinking. I think that these servants, they didn't really know what was happening with Joseph, because I don't think Joseph explained to them, as the brother said, that it was a test. Joseph didn't go around and explain to all of these servants that I'm putting these men to a test. So when they see all of these different things Joseph is doing, they were really confused. Just like, I'm confused. I have the Bible in front of me here, and I'm confused when I see the way how Joseph was dealing with his brothers here. And I think it was the same kind of a confusion that these servants was experiencing. And he's saying, bring these men to my house. And he said, these men are going to dine with me. And I guess it's all, man, I think this thing changing on man. These guys, Joseph, the prime minister is going to favor them, because to be invited or to be taken to the prime minister's house, that was a big deal. In verse 17. And the man did as Joseph said. They have to do it as Daniel said. Even though they're confused and they don't know why he's doing it, they still have to do it. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house. Brought them into Joseph's house. I don't know why I'm doing it. I don't know why the master wanted. He said to bring them to his house, so all I can do is to obey him. And in verse 18, and the men were afraid, meaning that Joseph's brothers, they were afraid. Because they knew the kind of treatment that was given to them by Joseph previously. And now they are brought to the man's house, the prime minister's house. So they're afraid, they're confused, they don't know what to expect next. And Joseph was really terrorizing his brothers. He was really torturing them, because they were brought because of the money. So let me go over 18. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. Because you see, back in that time, when you are brought to a person's house, especially somebody in Joseph's position, most of these high-ranking officials, they have their cellar, they have their jail cell in the bottom of their house. So these brothers, they are thinking that Joseph brought them to his house so that he could imprison them. Because it seems like Simeon, who was left in jail, was in Joseph's basement somewhere in a prison cell. It seems as though that's where he kept him, just like Potiphar. Potiphar was keeping Joseph in his basement in a prison cell. And Joseph probably had a jail in his basement also. And they said because of the money. So these men, they are tortured, they are terrorized, they are guessing, they are playing guessing game. It has to be because of the money. They just discovered that we stole the money. And they're going to put us in jail. And that was returned in our sack at the first time. So they're saying it's because we found the money in our sack. They don't know who put the money there. They are going to punish us because of the money that they did not receive. And we are brought in that he may seek occasion against us and fall on us. So he said, he brought us here so he can fall on us, to arrest us, take us prisoners, and to take us for bondmen. He's going to make us slaves. And our donkey, they're going to take our donkey too. You notice that he mentioned our donkey? And when I saw the writer, they mentioned our donkey. And he mentioned that they're going to take us for slaves. Donkey and slavery, there's a parallel between donkey and slavery. A slave was like a donkey. A donkey, you work a slave just like you work a donkey. And you notice that these guys, they were very, very protective. Not only of themselves, but they were protective of the donkey. They were protective because the donkey was their investment. They couldn't walk the land without the donkey. And these guys would do anything to protect their donkey. And when I see the parallel of that, European people, as I said, that slave is a parallel with donkey. Walking a person as a slave is like walking them like a donkey. And we're talking about a person protecting their donkey, protecting their slave. I see where European people, in the United States, they fought a war. You hear about the American Civil War? They fought a 4-year-old war. They fought a war. European people fought a war in the United States for 4 years. Europeans against Europeans, white people killing on white people. And during the course of that 4 years, they were fighting over slavery. The South wanted us to retain slavery, and the North, they inclined to abolish slavery. And because the South was totally dependent on slavery, the North and the South go to war for 4 years because of the slavery. And during that 4 years, you know how many people died? You know how many European people died in 4 years? More than 700,000 European people died fighting over slaves because they want to protect their donkey. They don't want to give up their donkey. They don't want to give up the services of their donkey. So they fight for 4 years and they kill more than 700,000 people because of the fact that they want to protect, one side wanted to protect slavery and the other side was inclined to set slaves free. And that was not even, that 700,000 was not even checking on civilians. 700,000 people died in the United States soldiers, United States Civil War, because they're fighting over slavery. And these guys are saying here that they don't want to lose their donkey. Europeans, they don't want to lose their donkey, so they're fighting to protect their donkey. And we thank God that, you know, we have insight into these things and we can see, you know, highlights of what really, you know, took place in the life of our ancestors. And we today, we ought not to be ashamed when we make reference to these things. May the Lord bless us. Anybody have a question or comment that you'd like to make? Before we close, you can do so as we close things up today. Amen. Bless the Lord. Gracious Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for your holy words. Continue to bless us as we go forward. We ask these favors in the name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen. Bless the Lord.